Well, it's happened again. Another violent knockout game assault. It's not a game, though. It's a crime. It's in the same area as this attack on your screen now. It's no game. It's a violent crime. A man just walking down a New York City street punched in the face. WNYW Fox New York reporter Stacey Delicat is live with the latest. Stacey, what happened?
Well, Greta, this latest incident happened around 2:30 in the morning in Borough Park, Brooklyn. The victim, a 24-year-old Orthodox Jewish man who says he was on his way home when he actually heard a group of men talking. He says he overheard them talking about the knockout game. He recognized the phrase from seeing it in news reports. He says next thing he knew, a fist was flying at his face. Now, he was okay. He was able to run and call police, and the suspects were apprehended. He did talk on camera, though he didn't want to show his face, but take a listen to how he explained what happened.
I was walking home on the way back from my job. I came across a group of people who were walking towards me, and I was able to hear them speaking loudly about this knockout game, which I've heard in the news as being a very dangerous game in which they knock someone to the ground. As I'm walking on the sidewalk, the group surrounded me, and one of them, as I tried to get away, one of them stepped out towards me and with a closed fist hit me on the face. As I was able to cringe and walk away from them, they called after me, "Come back, I can do this. I will knock you out." And then I called Shomrim right away, and the local police officers from the 66th precinct responded right away, and with great efficiency apprehended the 4 individuals who had just gotten into a car and tried to flee the scene. Yes, I'm definitely grateful that I, in fact, was not actually knocked to the ground. As far as I heard, all the other people who were a victim of this crime were actually knocked to the ground, some even unconscious. So I'm definitely glad to have not been knocked to the ground all the way, and not to have been knocked unconscious.
Well, you heard the victim say he called police, and the police were able to catch up with the 4 men involved. Those 4 men have been here at the 66th precinct in Borough Park since very early this morning being questioned, though at last check, they still have not been charged. Now, these suspects range in age from 28 to 38 years old. So keep in mind, we're not talking about kids here. We're talking about adults, and that's why one local lawmaker wants them to be charged with the highest crimes possible. He is calling for them to be charged with gang assault and bias attack. Greta, this lawmaker, saying that this is the 7th attack of this so-called knockout game to happen in Brooklyn in recent weeks.
Stacey, was there any indication people were standing around laughing? Because a lot of these that we've been reporting now, which has been, I mean, you know, you have the ones committing the crime of hitting, but then you've got this group laughing about it.
Well, Greta, it's not clear how the suspects reacted in this case, because we know the victim ran away as soon as possible so that he could call 911. So it's not clear what their reaction was, but there are reports that they were possibly pretty inebriated when this happened.
All right, let me ask you a question that I know all the viewers want to know, because there has been some racial implications. Some of these were the suspects. Are they white, African American, Hispanic, mixed? What?
Police telling us that 3 of the suspects are Hispanic, and the 4th is what they described as Asian Island Pacificer. They said that that 4th man, the Asian Island Pacificer man, was the one they believe who actually threw the punch, and the other 3 men crowded around so the victim couldn't get away.
Stacey, thank you.
Thank you.
And joining us, our legal panel in San Francisco, former prosecutor Jim Hammer, and here in Washington, defense lawyers Bernie Grimm and Ted Williams. Ted, first to you. This
is just sick. These are thugs who are out for thrills. I think that what is going on here is that they're getting together and they're laughing about it. I think that the criminal justice system is going to have to make a sound example of some of these thugs before this matter will dissipate. But I think they're seeing a lot of video games, and they're going on YouTube and these other places, and they're seeing this. This is just absolutely sick.
Jim, it's almost like a malignancy, because it's happening in so many communities. There have actually been deaths from it. We've reported on cases where they've thrown a couple punches and someone has died, and you've got people laughing at the whole concept of this. You know, they call it a game, and I hate to use it. That's what they call it, but I mean, these are crimes.
Yeah, I think you have the right word, malignancy. I think of all of the crimes I prosecuted, Greta, every once in a while you come across the people that are sort of, they're missing something inside, a basic human empathy, which stops people from treating other people like a video game object. There's an evil inside. There's a lack of empathy. It's a very serious crime. These kind of guys, if you catch them, Greta, whoever prosecutes them ought to lock them up every day, every year they can, because these are the kind of guys who go on, they'll commit a homicide, they'll do it again and again. Again, they're lacking humanity inside. They're very scary people.
Bernie, you think this is going to grow worse?
Yeah, it is. I read all the articles. Philadelphia, Newark, New Jersey, 7 blocks from here on Vermont Avenue. But Jim has led to the right point. I represent somebody in a robbery. You know what the motive is. The motive here is just to laugh, which means these guys are probably sociopaths. Because as Jim said, they can't feel the pain.
How do you find so many sociopaths? Sociopaths. That's the irony. How do you find so many people willing to be so awful?
It's video games. It's just all the rage. It's just it's sickening. I mean, the problem is with juveniles. Lock them up until they're 18. That's all you can do.
But now it looks like, at least in this community, this is a Jewish community. We have a 24-year-old Orthodox Jew man that we just heard from, and we had the 78-year-old Jewish woman the other night.
Yeah, and it seems to go across all lines. There is no conscience in these young people. And again, they're going to have to be made an example of. And you know, one of the things that it may very well happen that they're going to hit the wrong person and they're going to be left on the street.
Well, that's actually happening in Michigan. Jim?
Yeah, listen, we call them one-punch cases, one-punch homicides. This happens all the time, where somebody punches one in the head. If you fall fast enough and you hit your head on the ground, you die sometimes. But what Bernie said, I think, is the heart of it to some degree. It's as though it's a video game. There's this lack of basic compassion, empathy, thinking this is another human being. I don't treat them this way. So either the way they're raised or socialized or watching video games or whatever else, they become like this is some game with no consequence. And again, unless prosecutors lock these guys up for every year they can and really send a message so they're afraid to do it again, Greta, this will go on.
You got the last 20 seconds, Bernie.
You know, I'm watching the film with our viewers. It is just sickening to watch. I mean, the innocent folks just walking down the road and over somebody cold cuts them, not for money, which I can understand, or not a sexual assault or a robbery, whatever it is, just for the sheer thrill of it.
It's just awful. Anyway, and it's going on, and something's got to happen. Anyway, gentlemen, as always, thank you. All right, viewers.